Hey, good evening, Wings of Faith, and to our entire Faith Nation, and welcome once more again to another wonderful week. And here we are getting ready to have our Transformation Tuesday as we're tag teaming the Word. We want you to go ahead and follow, share, tag, reach out to as many people as you can and let them know that we're on. And we're so excited about what God has done, what God is doing, and what God's getting ready to do. You want to address the people and say hello?
Good evening, Faith Nation. We're so excited to be joining you again on this Tag Team Tuesday. As Bishop has already stated, please make sure that you share, tag, and like. We also really pray that you guys are hitting that subscribe button in the bottom of your screen so that you guys can stay in contact and connection with everything that we're doing, Wings of Faith and Bishop and I's ministry. So make sure tonight, when you finish watching the tag team, you subscribe to our YouTube channel and make sure you share, tag, and invite somebody else to join us.
I want to thank everyone that tuned in on Sunday. What a magnanimous move of God, what an epic move of God, what a Pentecostal display of power we had on Sunday. And so many people were blessed, so many people reached out to me, so many ones in the clergy, pastors, prophets, everyone's reached out. And so just want to thank everyone for their prayers. I want to send congratulatory remarks out to one of my dearest friends, my brother and my son, Pastor Brandon Johnson. Did you hear what happened with him?
Tell us what happened.
I had the honor of being able to oversee First Grace Baptist Church, which was a church that my uncle founded many years ago, and we are retiring him. And it was left up to me to help organize the search committee and everything for pastoralship. And God moved, and one of our sons has now been elected to be their next pastor. So I just want to take a moment and send that shout out to Brandon. For those of us that know him and that are close to him and love him, we call him Big B. So Big B is on his way up the mountain of this demonic mandate. So congratulations, and I'm sending God's favor and faithfulness out to you. Well, ready to get started?
It's time.
We left off, we was in the book of Ruth.
Yes.
We tagged all 4 chapters.
3. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, but we did, what was the title? What were we talking about? You remember what we were talking about?
The topic was it's all going to make sense after this.
It's all going to make sense after that. That's right. It's all going to make sense. Okay, good. All right. So we stopped at the end of chapter 3 last time we were together. And so we're going to pick up there. Prophet's going to read it and expound and speculate or whatever the Lord tells her to do. And I'll be here in the stands waving and witnessing. Amen. Hallelujah. Y'all ready to go? All right, here we go.
So cute.
Here we go.
So we ended on chapter 3 in Ruth, and I think Bishop is going to give us a recap of what we read and studied in verse. We're going to start at the ending so that he can piggyback and go ahead and pick up from where we started. Let's go to Ruth chapter 3.
Okay.
And we'll read verse 9 and 18, and then you can give us the recap, and we'll jump right into chapter 4. Is that okay?
Okay.
Okay, you following me, babe?
I don't have a choice. We're on live, so whatever you say, I have to do.
All right, so Ruth chapter 3, verse 9, it says, and he said, "Who art thou?" And she answered, "I am Ruth, thine handmaid. Spread therefore thy skirt over thine handmaid, for thou art near kinsman." That's verse 9. Then I'm going to jump to the very last one because that's where we ended. Verse 18 says, "Then she said, Sit still, my daughter, until thou know how the matter will fall. For the man will not be in rest until he have finished the thing this day." Recap, Pastor.
Wow. Okay. So basically what happened was, that's probably one of the most controversial sections of the Bible as we look at the book of Ruth. It's only 3 chapters, but chapter 3, it's only 4 chapters, but chapter 3, that part right there is somewhat, it's misunderstood, it's mistaught, it's misrepresented. Because what happened was, Naomi, who was the mother-in-law, had a conversation with Ruth to give Ruth directives and instructions on how to carry herself and present herself once she encountered and engaged with Boaz. Boaz had finished the day. He was asleep there on the threshing floor because it was in the midst of the wheat season. So he's looking out now for his crop. The fields of the harvest is full. And so she instructs Ruth how to present herself to Boaz. But it's somewhat controversial because what she told her, remember, was she had her to wash herself, anoint herself, to change her clothing. Now, when she had her to change her clothing, Ruth has been walking around in what is called mourning clothes or lamentation apparel. Because remember, she's a widow. Her and Naomi both. There was 3 graves in Moab. Only Opar stayed, remember. The other 2 widows came. And so she tells her now, basically, your mourning season is over. You cried enough. Been down enough, sad enough, mad enough, disappointed enough. It's time to get up now. It's time to live again. She sends her down to Boaz, who she understands now to be a kinsman redeemer. She's telling her to go down so that she might present to Boaz that she would love to be redeemed by him. Yeah. But she says something that is somewhat controversial in our culture. And so it caused an intellectual collision in the minds of people today because they thought it was an immoral act. She said to him, go down. She said to her, go down, lay at the feet of Boaz. Right. And when Boaz is awakened, ask Boaz to cover you. So what happened was, in Jewish custom, whenever a woman was covered by the skirt of a man, it meant that she was now under his wings. There's biblical commentary and references throughout the Old Testament that talks about how we're on the wings of God, or we're under the wings of God, which means we're under the care of God, which means we're under the protection of God, and we're under the provision of God. So it was really her way of saying to Boaz, I would love for you to be my covering and my husband. It was really somewhat of a marriage proposal that had been set by the law. So what Ruth had been instructed to do by Naomi was to let Boaz know that she wanted to be redeemed by him. Boaz awakens. She tells him this. She's in a very volatile position because it could have gone a lot of ways. And Boaz agrees that he would love to be her redeemer. He's blown away. I mean, this is the greatest compliment Boaz has ever gotten. Boaz looks at Ruth, this beautiful woman, and says, wait a minute now. You could have gone with a younger man. You could have gone with a richer man. You could have gone with a more intelligent man. You could have gone with anybody. But for some reason, your heart beguiled over me. And so what's amazing is that she wanted Boaz, but Boaz also wanted her. To make a relationship work, it has to be reciprocal. It can't be one person giving 90 and another person giving 10. No, both people have to have. That's what I tell people in relation conferences. If your relationship, listen, if you don't have common ground between the two, and if you don't have chemistry between the two, then you're not going to have a successful relationship. It shouldn't have to be that everybody got to be with you in order for you to be happy being together. The two of you ought to be able to have your own world, your own happiness, your own joy, your own laughter, your own silliness, just the two of you. And so Boaz wanted her and she wanted him. Okay? So Boaz gets up and tells us, listen, this is what we're going to do. He says, I feel the same way. He says, but listen, I don't want people to see you leaving the threshing floor this time of night and people misunderstood why you was here. He says, so I'm going to allow you to lay here and sleep until early morning. And right before the sun comes up, he gets up, takes that skirt, tells her to bring it to him. He fills it up and provides for her the grain of that day. She takes it back to Naomi's house, and he says to Ruth, listen, go there and you'll hear from me. She gets back to Naomi's house. Naomi asks her to tell her all things that had happened. And then Ruth says to Naomi everything that Boaz had said to her. And Naomi says to Ruth, notice, stay here, stay still, stay with me, because he will not rest until this matter has been solved. In other words, she said, he won't have peace until we know what the outcome was. Because there was one small issue they had to deal with that most people in church don't talk about. and ministers, when they preach it, don't speculate on it. And that was that we have all claimed and famed Boaz as the kinsman redeemer, which is true. But what we leave out is that Boaz was not the only kinsman that could have redeemed.
Yes.
He was in line, but he was not first in line.
Right.
He ends up being second in line. So what we got to do as it opens in chapter 4 is, in the concludity or in the conclusion of the book of Ruth, you're going to see the you're going to see the repositioning of the Redeemer in order prophetically for Boaz to be the next Redeemer, which gave him the space in the room and the legal right to redeem both Naomi, Ruth, and all of the property and debt of Elimelech, Mahlon, and Chilion all in one. So that's where the text ends, and this is where the text opens, and this is the final act and the final chapter of one of the most popular books in the Bible, which is only one of 2 books in the entire Bible named after a woman, the book of Esther and the book of Ruth. And so this is how this love story ends. It starts off rocky, remember? It starts off with a famine in Bethlehem, Judah. It starts off with the faithful, with those of faith not being faithful. It starts off with Elimelech and Naomi and Mahlon and Chilion coming over to Moab, which was a wash pot, right? Wash basin, wash bowl. It starts off with 3 deaths, 3 headstones, 3 tombstones, 3 funerals. It starts off with Oprah and Naomi and Ruth parting ways. And it starts off with Naomi having been full, then having been empty, and then returning. So you got 2 widows that come to town, broken and broke.
Wow.
And it doesn't look good. The Samaritan spotlight shines on their brokenness, them being broke, their failures, their faults, their weaknesses, their wrong, their past, their pain. There is nothing about Naomi's and Ruth's life that you wanted to mirror your life in chapter 1. There's nothing about their life you wanted basically in chapter 2. But here's the good part about being a child of God.
Yeah.
We got some more chapters.
Right.
Can I get a witness? And a lot of people close the book too soon. I tell people all the time, one bad hour don't make a bad day. One bad day won't make a bad week. One bad week don't make a bad month. One bad month don't make a bad year. And one bad year don't make a bad life, which means one bad chapter don't make a bad book. See what I'm saying? So the chapter ends, we've had some bad chapters, but watch what chapter 4 does. Here we go.
What a recap. Chapter 4 starts in verse 1 and it reads, Then went Boaz up to the gate and sat him down there. And behold, the kinsman of whom Boaz spake came by, unto whom he said, Hold, such a one, turn aside, sit down here. And he turned aside and sat down.
Okay, so I'm going to give you the nerd stuff, and she'll jump in a minute and give you all the spice. All right, so if you look at verse 1, babe, for those listening, when it says, Then went Boaz up to the gate, I've heard people try to explain and speculate this a million times. And everybody do an okay job. I'm not trying to catch whatever. I'm trying to make it seem like I'm all knowledge, all knowing. But when I read verse 1, I stopped when it said, Then went Boaz up to the gate. And most people keep riding, keep reading, keep going on. Why did I stop right there? Because historically, the fact that they was going to the gate already told me something was up. Why? Because in that day, all business matters, all matters of major business, if it was the transfer of the property, the purchasing of property, if it was a marriage, if it was a divorce decree, if it was a dispute in the city, those things was handled at the gate. The gate was like a modern day magistrate. In other words, the gate in that day would have been what the courtroom is in our day. So when they said they was going to the gate, it was like they was going to court, which tells me right there that they was ready to handle some business. So he says, I'm going to the gate, because that's where they handle business. I'm going to sit down there. I'm going to wait on the other kinsman. In other words, Boaz is the second kinsman. Okay? He is a kinsman, the redeemer, but he's the second one in line. He's waiting now on the first kinsman. The only thing that made the other guy in front of him was that he was older. It's just like in olden days when the inheritance of a home, when the inheritance of the father always went to the oldest boy. So the second person in line under Elimelech is who Boaz is waiting on. So evidently, Elimelech, the other redeemer, and Boaz were all brothers. Or they could have been uncles. You see what I'm saying? So he's waiting on the eldest one, who's the next one, to come through the gate. Biblical history says that the unmentioned redeemer and Boaz were two considered elders in the city, that they looked up at them because of their wisdom, their knowledge, and their prosperity, as well as their power. All right? The text has been tailored to teach us that the name of the first redeemer was never mentioned in biblical reference. We don't know who he was. We don't know, but if they didn't mention him because of the shame that fell back on him, we don't know if they didn't mention him because he was not important in the lineage of Jesus Christ. All we know is that they never called his name. The name we know is Boaz because he's the only one who shows up in the biblical genealogy of Christ. So they purposely leave his name out. All right? So Boaz is waiting on the first in line. Okay? And it says, and he took the men of the elders of the city and sat down here, and they sat down. When the Bible talks about the elders of the city, verse 2 says he took 10. So I'm a nerd, so just so for those of y'all that want real Bible study, here it is. In those days, you only needed 2. 2 to 3 constituted, watch this, a witness. In our day, we'll take 1. In biblical times, 1 person couldn't be a witness. There had to be 2. That's why when Jesus selected his disciples, he sent them out in 2s. He said, because I need 2 of y'all to be a witness to each other. You see what I'm saying? So they only needed 2 or 3. But oftentimes, whenever it was a matter of major concern or a major weight, they would go with 10. They went with 10. 10, based on history, progressed in the New Testament, and 10 became 12. Okay? So it ended up, so watch this, just so y'all know. The witness started out as 2. Biblical times progressed, and 2 became 10. Jesus came and set the order, and he went to 12. When you get to the book of Revelation, 12 comes back into 2. There's going to be 2 witnesses to Revelation. Okay, I just want to give you that. We'll keep moving. So they go and get 10. So why did they get 2? They got 2 because 2 deals with being a witness, and 2 deals with unity. Why would they get 10? Because 10 deals with testimony. Okay, why would they get 12? Because 12 is governmental order. It's going to go from a witness to testimony to governmental order back to the original witness. Because what most people don't realize about the Bible is that Jesus had, how can I say it? God has his intensive will. Then God has a promiscuous will. And then God has an executive will. The intensive will is how God intended for man to live. How God intended for this world to be. Now, people can say anything they want. I want one. I'm not going to give you the grocery list. But there is a list of things, of lifestyles, of characteristics, of proverbial rules and principles that God intended for man. Yeah. As the Bible progresses, we move from God's intensive will to God's promiscuous will. That is, what God permits man to do. For example, like God never intended for man to suffer an abuse or to suffer to be addictive. You know what I'm saying? To be addicted to some type of drug abuse or substance abuse. That wasn't in his intent, but it's in his promiscuous will. Okay? God never intended for man to be drunk, but that's in his promiscuous will. He didn't intend for us to lie. It's in his promiscuous will. Okay? Because God has always given man a choice. Here's the problem. Our culture is under the influence that God's promiscuous will, okay, is what they're going to be judged by. If they're not, they're going to be judged by his executive will, which backs up his intensive will. Because the promiscuous will would have gone out the window. So it's just like the two thieves on the cross. One chose him and one rejected him. He allowed him to reject him because he was in promiscuous will. When he stands before him at the judgment bar, he's going to be judged because he rejected him. That's the executive will. He can't say I didn't know because he knew God's intensive will. But we'll leave that alone. See, we know it's intensive will. We decided to deal with our promiscuous will, and we done forgot we got an answer to his executive will. It all gonna come back, as grandma would say, full circle. And my mom would say, because baby, whatever don't come out in my wash is gonna come out in my rinse. Y'all got it? All right, so in verse number 2, he comes back with full circle. You got 10 elders in the city. They're going to sit down there because the elders' job was not only to give a witness, it was to share wisdom, and it was to pronounce, they were to be a witness, they were to share wisdom, they were to give counsel, and they were to either pronounce their blessing upon a thing or denounce their thing. So that's why they're in the game.
Wow.
Okay?
Wow.
Okay.
So we're going to pick up in verse 3.
Okay.
And he said unto the kinsman, Naomi, that is come again out of the country of Moab, selleth a parcel of land, which was our brother Amalek's.
Okay. He said again to the kinsman, Naomi, that is coming in out of the country of Moab, set up a parcel of land, which is our brother Amalek. Okay. So the reason why verse 3 is so important is because Boaz is talking to the kinsman redeemer. And he's explaining to the kinsman redeemer the situation. So he's giving him the identity of whom he would have him to redeem, which is Naomi. The reason it was so important to call her name was that he wanted to remind the kinsman that this is Naomi, who was our brother's Amalek's wife. Okay? Let me give y'all this. Again, this is some nerd news. In those days, a redeemer could redeem property. A redeemer could redeem a slave. A redeemer could redeem the wife of the deceased. But the redeemer, when it came to property in those days could be transferred, bought, and sold as long as it was within the confine of the tribe by which you were a part. Got it? So what tribe is on stage now? Judah. So Boaz is trying to make sure the kinsmen know this is ours. She's a part of us. This land belongs to us. We can't let this land, in other words, we don't want the tribe of Benjamin, the tribe of Levi, the tribe of Naphtali, we don't want them to come and try to get the land. We want the land to stay within the tribe of Judah. So he's getting ready to present it to him. In other words, we want you to buy it so we don't lose it. But if you can't buy it, I will. But I want you to know who the land was, so that he would know that he had the right to buy it and that he was buying land that was within the confine of the tribe of Judah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Verse 4. And I thought to advertise thee, saying, buy it before the inhabitants and before the elders of my people. If thou wilt redeem it, redeem it. But if thou wilt not redeem it, then tell me, that I may know. For there is none to redeem it beside thee, and I am after thee. And he said, I will redeem it.
Okay, someone needs to come with me. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So here we go, y'all. Lean in. Verse 4, I want y'all to hear me. Verse 4 is Because there is one line in verse 4 that preachers preach and don't preach it. Teachers teach and oftentimes won't teach it. Okay? Tellers talk and won't tell it. Seers see but don't see it. It's one line in verse 4 that every preacher has to deal with when you're dealing with this text.
Deal with it, Bishop.
It's real simple, one line. You know what it says? The very last line. The very last line. The last 4 words in verse 4 is what they leave out. I will redeem it. Lean in. What did the first Redeemer say? I will redeem it. Everybody shouts and runs because Boaz redeemed it, but nobody ever gives a discussion that Boaz for a moment was canceled out. Because the first Redeemer did what those of us of faith didn't want him to do. He agreed to redeem. Why is that so important? Because, babe, when he says, I will redeem it, that means, wait a minute, Naomi can't get her son-in-law. That means that Ruth can't get her Boaz. Wow. If he redeems it, watch this. When he said, I will redeem it, the crowd's shoulders went up. Naomi and Ruth's shoulders fell down. When he said, I will redeem it, they looked happy. Ruth looked sad. They got excited. Naomi got mad. Because they didn't want him to redeem it. That's why Naomi sent Ruth to the bedside of Boaz. They wanted Boaz to redeem him because they saw a different character in Boaz than they had seen in any other man. Remember the word Boaz. All over Judah, they know what Boaz means. It means in him is my strength, or in him I have found my strength, or I found my strength in him. This was a unified harmony between Naomi and Ruth. That Boaz was their answer to their question, that he was the cure to what ailed them, he was the right to what had wronged them, he was the bridge to their breach. Boaz was the shelter in their storm. But before Boaz could redeem them, the Redeemer, who was next and who was first in line, said, I'll redeem him.
Wow.
You with me?
I'm with you.
He said, I'll redeem it. He said, I'll do it. I got it. All right? But now watch this. Read verse number 5. Because as we all know, that's not how the story ends.
Verse 5 then says, Then said Boaz, What day thou buyest the field of the hand of Naomi, thou must buy it also of Ruth, the Moabites, the wife of the dead, to raise up the name of the dead upon his inheritance.
All right. So, if you read the text, if you can read the Bible, the text has been taken to teach us something that most people never look at. Boaz, under the unctioning, junctioning power of God, became methodical in his presentation of the redemptive package. Boaz tells the Redeemer, Naomi here, the wife of Elimelech, has some land she needs to sell. We would like to sell it within the family if you are willing to redeem it. And he said, I'll redeem it. Unbeknownst to him, he could not redeem the property without redeeming the person. So when he said, I'll redeem it, he didn't know he had to redeem Naomi and Ruth. He just thought he was redeeming the property. He wanted the property. He didn't want the person. You see what I'm saying? But Boaz, in his spirit, felt that if he presented this way, that would make the first Redeemer have second thoughts, which would then give him a clear path to step in and say, well, if it's too much for you, it's just enough for me. Boaz set him up. Man, y'all ain't got to listen. Listen now. See, I need a loud audience. But Boaz set him up. But the Redeemer thought, let me get this property. This is going to add to my wealth. This is going to add to my resume. This is going to, you know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, let me get this. This makes me richer. This gives me more land to add to my legacy, to present as an inheritance to my son. Yeah. All I want is the land. I'm getting ready to go home and tell my wife, boo, we got some more land. We got some real estate. We got all of Emilec's land. Okay? Which means I get all the servants that's working the land. Y'all, come on, y'all don't know what to shout. I get the servants that's working the land. I get the crop that's on the land. I get the harvest from the land. I get the wheat. I get the corn. I get the olives. I get the grapes. Hey, man, Boaz, let's do this. Give me the land. I'll redeem it. And Boaz said, well, wait a minute. Wait a minute. If you're going to redeem the land, you got to redeem who the land has fallen to. The land fell to Naomi. Naomi's a woman. She can't claim the land. So it should have went to Mahlon. But Mahlon died, and he can't claim the land. So now you got Mahlon, who the land really went to, and the person that closer to him is his wife, Ruth. In order to claim the land, you got to claim the debt from the land and the people that's attached to the land. And he looks at Boaz and says, I can't do it. I can't do it. He reneged on the deal and nobody talks about this. He said one thing and did another. Nobody talked about this. Because when he looked at the whole package, he says, I'm sorry, Boaz. I cannot do it after saying, I will redeem it. Okay? And the kinsman said, I cannot redeem it for myself, for lest I mar my own inheritance. Redeem thou the right hand to thyself, for I cannot redeem it. So here's the question. Could he have redeemed it? Yes, because legally he had the status in the state. I'm sorry. Should he have redeemed it? Yes, because he had the status in the state. Could he have redeemed it? Yes, because he had the prosperity, the position, and the power. Would he have redeemed it? Yes, because he said yes prematurely. So the question comes to why didn't he redeem it? The reason he did not redeem the land was because in order to redeem the land, he would have had to make Ruth his wife. So he would have had to, he left home with a wife. Would have came back home with another wife. He said, I don't want these problems. He left home with his kids' inheritance in order. We would have had to come back home saying, here's my young wife, who by law I'm getting ready to have another kid with, and if this child is a son and not a daughter, that means I've got to re-regulate my inheritance. Which now I'm getting ready to have a problem with my wife I already have, and a problem with my children who I've already told that all I got belongs to them. And I'm doing all of this for a Moabite woman whose life is cursed. Wow. Y'all know when to shout. Lean in. So I've got to take a cursed woman, cause confusion with my wife, create conflict with my children, in order to honor the covenant of redeeming Ruth, Naomi, Mahlon, Chilion, and Emily. He looks at Boaz and says, that's too much for me to handle. And he walks away.
You know, I think that's a great teaching moment. 2 points that you made. Number one, you clarify that at the beginning of the text, where he begins to say, I will redeem it. But on the flip side, he turns around and says, I can't. Now, one thing that I noticed in this text is that when she presented her promise, or she presented her, let's call it her wish to Boaz, she presented to him saying that I want you to be my redeemer. So in her heart and her mind and her soul, it was something within her that said he's the one. So he honored that. He turns around and says, this is what I'm going to do, but just wait right here. Now, at this part, it turns around that the guy that is in waiting, the guy that is next in line, turns around and says, I'm going to do it. Now, you have to go into this perspective. In her mind, she wanted Boaz. But this man has stepped up to the plate and said, but I'm going to do it. Now, this is a woman that says, okay, but I want him, but I tell you what, I'll settle for him because I'm still going to get redeemed.
Redeemed. Either way.
Either way, I'm still going to get the redemption.
Right.
But then the flip side turns around, and this is just a practical teaching moment,
right,
to where he turns around and says, I can't do it. Now watch this. The practical teaching is, when God has someone for you, relationship teaching, when God has someone for you, they're going to accept all of you. Right. We have women that have children, women that have been divorced, men, whatever it is. There are some things that are connected to us that some people may not say, I want to carry that with me. But in this text, I heard some rejections is God's blessings. Because in the flip side, it almost, she could have said, well, he just rejected me. Even though the covenant, even though the law was very clear that he could have done that. But for a quick moment, she had to be hesitant and say, now what am I going to do? Because he was the next in line. So I understand in this moment, for those that are listening, you could be experiencing some type of conflict in your life, or you could be experiencing some type of rejection. But can I prophetically say to you tonight, don't die in the rejection, because God has a blessing in it. What didn't work in one season, God will flip that thing around and make it work for your good in this season. Because look at the text. Where he said he wouldn't do, somebody else was next in line, ready to take the responsibility. There is a next that has a blessing for you. There is a person, there is a business, there is a divine connection that says, guess what? It didn't work on that blueprint, but it's all I need for my blueprint. There is a blessing that God has in store for you. Watch this. Just stand still and sit and watch what God is going to do.
Now I'm going to give you a nerd point. And I've thought about this when you were talking. But now this is the point. The overall point is that for the first kinsman redeemer, it didn't fit.
It didn't fit.
It just didn't fit.
Yeah.
When I was a little boy, there was a game my mom bought me. And the game had the slot for a square, a circle, a rectangle, I think, a star, and I had to take the blocks and you see what I'm doing? Make the block fit in the space designed for that block. And I remember my mom saying, Dreyfus, Dreyfus, because I was slamming the board like this, and my mom kept saying, Dreyfus, it won't fit.
It won't fit.
And sometimes we grab blocks, trying to put them in sections that was cut out for a star. And we're mad because the block don't fit. And the circle don't fit. Because circles are only meant to mesh with a circumference and not in a block space.
Right.
And we mess up sometimes trying to make people's situations and things fit in spaces that they were not cut, fashion, shape, form to fit in. It didn't fit. And the place that does fit, it fits because it was created to fit.
Yeah.
Now I just thought about something that was crazy.
And I did too.
And this is a nerd moment right here, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'll let you go. You go first.
No, what I hear you saying is, as believers, we have got to understand that we can't fit something and force something, because fitting and forcing don't go together. If it don't fit, don't force it. I always heard people say, some people may love the thought of you, but can't handle the destiny of you. Because what does that mean? People think because I see you are anointed. People see because I like your swagger. But you like the thought of who I am and how you can look with me. But can you handle what makes me who I am? Can you carry me? I thought about the scripture that talked about when the men were sick and they did all they had to do to get him to Jesus. It was some season in his life where he had friends, but they appreciated him and his wellness and his sickness. But it took a different type of friendship to carry him on the mat when he couldn't walk. Just because I'm in my high, you got to understand, can you handle me when I'm my low? So don't force something. when it don't fit.
Yeah, and the people that will carry you are people that God have already prepared for the weight of you.
Yes.
There's something about this text that I never heard ministers talk about, and the Lord just dropped in my spirit. And I'm going to hold my peace when I say this. I'm going to hold my peace when I say this. The Lord just dropped in my spirit, and the Holy Ghost just told me to deal with this right here. Why is it that Boaz could handle Ruth and the other kinsmen couldn't? Nobody ever asked the question there. Why is it that Boaz could handle her? Because why is it that Boaz could handle her and was willing to handle her, but the other one wouldn't? Because in front of all the elders at the gate, there's a Moabite woman, a stranger in the city, a woman who came in out of the will of God, who, as far as they feel, a foreigner, a woman who they whisper about behind her back, a woman who grew up in a place where they worship behind God. And here she is standing in front of this awesome man of God, and one man of God says, one man of faith says, this is too much for me. And the other man says, it's just right for me. Come on now. How is it that she was just right for Boaz, but one right for the other? God just told me something, just reminded me something that I hadn't read in years. I just remembered. I'm trying not to run out of here. I just remembered who Boaz was. I'm sorry. I just remembered who Boaz's mama was. Okay. You ready for this? You're going to like this. I'm telling you, you're going to like this. Well, first of all, let me tell you. Do you know who his daddy was? Tell me. His daddy was Samuel. Okay. Right? Remember, Samuel was one of the spies that they sent to Jericho to spy out the city. You remember they closed the gate on them before they could get out. So you know what they did? They ran to the first house they saw, which was the nicest house they saw, and guess who came to the door? A prostitute by the name of Rahab. Lean in. Rahab opened the door and hid them in the house. When the soldiers from Jericho came to the house looking for them to kill them, Rahab lied and said they left and went that way. They didn't leave and go that way. She hid them on the roof under the stack. Lean in. When she got ready to go and talk to them, they began talking, and Rahab interrupted them and said, I've heard about your God. I've heard what he's done and what he can do. She wanted them, and so she was so in awe, and one of the spies kept talking about the goodness of God. Lean in. When that spy got through talking about God's goodness, Rahab wanted to know, what would I have to do to serve your God? He told her, listen, we coming back. But when we come back, we ain't coming back to save. We coming back to take the city. He said, but I tell you what I would do. This is one guy. I tell you what I do for you, boo. If I get to the front of this gate, look up at your window and see that red coin hanging, I will cover your house. I will spare you. Watch this, lean in. Bishop, why are you telling us this? Because that spy name was Samuel. And when they rescued that one house, the main person in the house name was Rahab. Samuel and Rahab got married. Do you know what they son? They had a son. Do you know what his name was? Boaz. Man, y'all about to make me run up out of here. So when Boaz standing down there and they saying she ain't this and she ain't that, Boaz said, wait a minute. That's the same thing they said about my mama. Come on, Bishop. That's the same. They discounted my mama. They said my mama was this and that and that and this and that and that. But let me fast forward to you. His mama ends up in Jesus' family tree. So Boaz stood there and said, listen, I ain't worried about your history. Because, baby, I see your destiny. I don't care nothing about your past. I see your future. I know you've made mistakes, but to me, you'll be a miracle. I know you got some faults, but together we can have favor. And most people don't know how to come together. That's why it's for better, for worse. And you got to be willing to understand, hey, when I marry you, I'm going to marry your storms because I'm going to be your shelter. And that's what Boaz was willing to be. He said, says, listen, I don't just want you for the smell of the petals, baby, I want the thorn and all. I'll take the piercing and the pain, because together we're going to have power and purpose. And if you cannot, if the person that is with you, if the person that is with you wants your worth and don't want your weight, they ain't worth having you. They can't say, I want your worth, and then don't want your weight. They cannot say, I want your mountaintop, and then turn their head and say, but I don't want your valley low. It don't work like that. I want your sick day and your well. I want you when you're winning and you're losing. I want you when you're right and when you're wrong. And guess what? I'm willing to present you when you're right, cover you when you're wrong, speak up for you when you can't speak. Boaz said, you can't handle it, I can handle it. And that's what we got to learn how to do in the community of faith, is we got to find people that want our favor and our faults, and not just our favor. That will accept our story and our glory, and not just our glory. Because most people are looking for people that will propel them. They want you to be their promised land, but they don't want to be with you in your wilderness. And then we get with them and get mad. And people are having arguments in their wilderness as if the promise has been canceled. The promise ain't been canceled, but you got to sign up for the journey. And most people want to sign up for the arrival. You know what I'm saying? We just got back in town, right? We went to a wonderful vacation destiny, all right? We came back. We had to fly through Semitic happenings. There was storms up there. There was lightning up there. There was wind. There was times that the pilot came on the plane and told everybody to what? Put your seatbelts back on and get in your seats. That was the journey. But when we landed back and the sun was shining, come on now, you know what I'm saying? A lot of people are deterred by the flight because all they want is the arrival. And you can't take the arrival without the flight, because it's the flight that gets you there. And it's the flight that makes you appreciate finally landing. And the first Redeemer didn't want the flight. He didn't want the journey.
It's almost when I hear them always say this, and it says, what's one person's trash is someone else's treasure. You know, and so you have to be willing to understand when someone only sees your trash, they're not even your treasure, because treasure recognizes treasure. Value recognize value. And whenever you have to underestimate yourself, or you have to dumb it down to submit to someone else's liking, guess what? It's nothing like this story. That's not your Boaz or your Ruth. Right.
You're right. I mean, so the fact that Boaz is still there, he understands who she is. And you got to listen to something. Boaz knows everything there is to know about Ruth. And he says, I still want to go in covenant with you. And a lot of people right now are hiding their scars, hiding their wounds, hiding their failures, hiding their weaknesses, hiding their mistakes, in hope to find somebody that will marry them, love them, and want them, as if they're scarless. What happens when you get together and the scar is revealed?
You know, that's one thing that, and I know this is not a relationship segment, but it talks about relationships. And I just want to make a personal comment. I know when in the history of my life, you know, in ministry, being a single mom, being an entrepreneur, there were so many things that I experienced. But one thing I will always testify is that when I met you, you made, I say, my scars become beauty marks. Because one thing about a real covenant, you love me beyond what the world sees. You are able to love me for the transparency of me. And that's what he saw. He saw that no matter what nobody else saw or heard or what he knew, he still chose to redeem her. And I think that's what true covenant is. And so I just want to prophetically speak to men and women that are watching us. I don't know what your situation is. I don't know what you're coming out of. But can I promise you that you're entering into a season of redemption. You're entering into a season of being redeemed. There is a divine appointment appointed time in your life where God is going to allow someone to pay, to compensate for the pain that you've gone through.
Yeah.
And I prophesy in your life right now that this is the payback season.
Yeah.
This is the season where God is going to, watch this, remove the scales from someone's eyes to see your beauty in your flaws.
And the cost won't be too high.
Yeah.
The cost won't be too high.
Yeah.
You know, and you gotta have, we was at dinner, myself and you and my daughter Diamond and one of her dear friends. And we was going over the menu. We was at this 5-star restaurant. And the prices were, what?
Horrendous.
Absolutely. I mean, I need 5 jobs just to pay it. And we're sitting there going over the menu, and Diamond, I'm asking everybody what they want. And Diamond said, well, Dad, whatever. And I look at my daughter, and I look at my wife, and I look at my wife, and look at my daughter. And I said, well, hey, we're here now. Yeah. Whatever you want. It comes a time in life that you got to have people that are willing to say, you know what? You're worth the price.
Oh, that's good.
You're worth the price. Some people walked in and walked out. Some people sit down together. Yeah. Some people walked in, sit down, and complain the whole while they was there. And some people just said, you know what? You're worth the price. Yeah. And until you find that person that say you're worth the price, it's a waste. Everything else is a waste of time.
It reminds me of a statement that I've heard, and I wrote it in one of my books, that says many people want to be a diamond, but they don't want to be cut.
Yeah.
Many people want to be a diamond, but they want to be cut. Biblically, we say we want to be anointed and powerful. Watch this, but we don't want to go through the pain. Yeah. But in order to be powerful, it's the pain that pushes you to power.
Yeah. Well, you think about it, when you talk about that, and it's so funny, because I remember one of the greatest things I found out about a diamond was when I did a study on the excavation of a diamond and how it was cut out, how it was extracted, and how a lot of times people, they don't want to be cut, and then a lot of times people don't recognize that you are a diamond because they get upset because they saw the dirt. Yeah. There is no diamond that's ever been a diamond that didn't come from some dirty situations. Yes. Yeah. The diamonds come out of caves. Yeah. Ain't no clean cave. Yeah. In other words, I don't care how valuable you are. Everybody got some faults. Everybody got some nicks and knacks and weaknesses. But that doesn't disvalue the weight of the fact that you are a diamond. You are who God said you're going to be. Yeah. And so Boaz looks at Ruth and says, you're worth the price I paid. Okay, we'll keep going.
We'll keep going. All right. What verse? Let's pick up on verse 7. Now this was the manner in former time in Israel concerning redeeming and concerning changing. For to confirm all things, a man plucked off his shoe and gave it to his neighbor. And this was a testimony in Israel. You want to stay there or you want to move forward?
Okay, let's explain it because most people read it and you're going to be lost in it. So I'll just take about 60 seconds and make it real kindergarten. Okay. In our day and time, if we were going to have a business transaction, right? There's going to be a signing of a contract. Well, in the days of Ruth, there was no contract to sign. Okay? So they didn't write it down. It was a public contractual agreement. So this is how things got transferred. When the Bible says he took off his shoe, this is what it means. The first redeemer, all right? Let me say, now what's the matter of the form? Here's the percent of redeemer, and a man pulled off his shoe. So here's what happened. The first redeemer, make sure you follow this motion. Not Boaz. The first redeemer, the guy who was in line, who was next, who was first in line, because he was refusing to be the redeemer after saying he was going to buy the land. This is what he had to do in front of all the elders. He had to sit down, take off his sandal, hand the shoe to Boaz in front of everybody. Why? Because it said to Boaz, and it said to all those watching, lean in, that my feet no longer have the authority to tread upon your land. Wow. I'm giving you my authority. I'm telling you my feet won't ever come across it. Now when I say feet come across it, in other words, I won't come across the land as if I have authority to be on it. It's your land. I'm giving it to you. Yeah. This is our business transition. I'm getting out the way, telling you I won't come back at it. I'm giving up the right to have it, and it's now yours. And by giving him the shoe in front of everybody, it was, in our day, the transferring of a title or the transferring of paper. It was like going to a closing with a realtor to buy a house. It sealed the deal, and it sealed it in front of the elders who was there to be witnesses, who was there to give wisdom and counsel. And when they did that, it was a done deal. You got it?
I got it.
Ah, okay.
That's good,
It was a done deal. Thank you, babe. I know a couple things.
Okay, for the sake of time, we're going to jump right here to verse 10 and then probably the ending. But verse 10 says, "Moreover, Ruth the Moabite, the wife of Mahlon, have I purchased to be my wife, to raise up the name of the dead upon his inheritance, that the name of the dead be not cut off from among his brethren, and from the gate of his place. Ye are the witnesses this day." Then it goes on to...
Okay, so now what verse did you read?
I read verse 10.
Okay. Let me give you this.
Okay. Well, verse 9.
Right, okay.
Verse 9 says, "And Boaz said unto the elders and unto all these people, Ye are witnesses this day that I have bought all that Amalek's," that's a good
All
place.
Amalek's,
"And all that was Chilion's and Mahlon's of the hand of Naomi."
Okay, so I'm going to blow somebody away. So lean in as we get ready to close. Boaz says, in front of the elders at the gate. Now let me say something that I left out. Okay, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
At the gate was the 10 elders.
Yes.
But also at the gate was any citizens of that city, of that village. Any townsperson could come and witness. So everything that we're reading and teaching was being witnessed by the 10 elders, but not the 10 elders only. The 10 elders were the only one there that had power to persuade the deal.
Right.
But they weren't the only one to witness it.
Right.
It had to be done in front of the town. So the whole town is there. And while the whole town stands, verse 9 says something that people miss. It says, "And Boaz said." He turns to the council, to the elders, and he says unto the people, "Ye are witnesses this day that I have bought all that was Amalek's, all that was Chilion's, all that was Mahlon's, and of the hand of Naomi." Okay, wait a minute. I'm going to say something to y'all that some of y'all know. Boaz redeemed Naomi's, okay, because remember now, he's going to marry Ruth, but he had to redeem, but he's talking about the business part of it now. He said, "I redeemed the business of Naomi, I redeemed Mahlon's business, I redeemed Chilion's, I redeemed Emily's." Anything associated with these names I just called has been redeemed. Wait a minute, y'all don't like this. Anything associated with Emily, anything associated with Chilion, anything associated with Mahlon, anything associated with Naomi. Let me do it again. Let me do it in this order.
Okay.
Anything associated with Naomi is what?
Redeemed.
Anything that's associated with Mahlon is what?
Redeemed.
Anything associated with Chilion is what?
Redeemed.
Anything associated with Emelech is what?
Redeemed.
All right, so now I'm just going to give the men's name.
Okay.
Anything that's associated with Emelech has just been
Redeemed.
Anything that's associated with Mahlon has just been
Redeemed.
And anything associated with Chilion has just been
redeemed.
Who's associated to Emelech?
You better say it.
Naomi. Babe, who's associated to Mahlon?
My goodness.
Ruth. So who was associated with Chilion? Oprah. But who's in Bethlehem, Judah? Naomi. Who came home with Naomi? I got to lean up because I'm going to get out of here. Who came to Bethlehem, Judah with Naomi? Ruth. Okay, y'all slow. Y'all don't know when to shout. I just gave y'all 3 guys' names.
Yeah.
Emelech, Mahlon, Chilion.
Yes.
Emelech married who? Naomi. Mahlon married who? Ruth. Chilion married who? Opah. Who's present? Elimelech married who? Naomi. Naomi is what? Present. Mahlon married who? Ruth. Ruth is what? Present. Chilion married who? Opah. Opah is what? Absent. Lean in. Oh, y'all don't know where to shout. I feel y'all through the TV. Y'all ain't got it yet. Here it is. Opah decided to turn back.
She went back.
Opah never realized if she had kept going forward, she too would have been redeemed. Which meant that when Boaz married Ruth, just like there was a room for Naomi, there would have been a room for Opah. Opah would have been in a house that was blessed under the lineage of Boaz in the tribe of Judah, which meant that she then could have turned around and married another man from where? Judah, which would have kept her in the lineage.
Wow.
She was set up to be favored. She was set up to be featured. But she turned loose at the wrong time and turned back. Some of y'all have missed your destinies because your actions and because of what you did canceled your covenant that God had for you.
They detoured, which derailed them from destiny.
Their destiny. Wow. Opah's name should have been right here. Yeah. It would, by right, this is how it was supposed to go. It was supposed to go. Our Boaz has just redeemed Elimelech's property, Mahlon's property, and Chilion's property. Which means our Boaz will now share my wealth with Naomi, Ruth, and Opah. Yeah. But Opah decided
to go back.
To turn back.
Yeah.
Opah decided to turn loose.
Ooh, which says sometimes if you just hang in there,
hold on.
If you just stay the course, in other words, there's a blessing on the other side of through. There's a blessing right at midnight. So when the darkest time happens, it's a blessing. There's sunshine after the rain. And people get frustrated too soon, turn loose too soon, get upset too soon, and they miss what God had for them. And then they got to live their lives looking at where they could have been, should have been, would have been, if they had just stayed faithful to the course. Opah's name doesn't get mentioned in the redemptive package because she's at home in Moab. And guess what, church? Lean in. Wow. The Bible don't talk about Opah no more. Wow. Because the best thing she could do in Moab is get a curse man. Wow. Lean in. On her best day, she's going to get the worst. Wow. On her best day. I don't care who her man is, because the Bible didn't even think enough about him to tell us what his name is. Because guess what? Whatever his name is, it ain't Boaz. It's Bozo. Can I get with me? She may have a Boaz. She ain't got a Boaz. But she ain't got a Boaz. She might have an in him, but it ain't no in him is my strength. Right. And so Opah ended up taking a failure, when God had favor waiting on her. And people say, but she was a Moabite. Well, so was Ruth. Yeah. But God specializes. I mean, Rahab is coming to his family reunion, and she's the most popular prostitute in the Bible. Because when God mercy walks in with his grace, his favor forgives all that man have recognized. And he puts you on the kingdom calendar, and it's all covered under the blood. You know, I think it's such a great moment right here that we as believers, we send up a prayer that God will synchronize us in divine alignment. Because sometimes we get out of the alignment of God, which puts us out of the will of God. And we miss our destiny. So it's my prayer tonight for those that are watching us, that God will position you, that you will ask the Father, bring me into divine alignment, synchronize me with your plan, your plots, and your purpose for my life. Because without alignment, it's easy for any of us to get derailed, distracted, and detoured. But it's my prayer tonight that if you have got out of the sequence with God, that you would get in synchronization with him, that he will put you right back in your proper place, because there is a blessing if you stay the course.
And you think about it, Oprah has to kick herself.
Yeah.
Now she may start out saying, oh, Chilean died, or whatever. No, let hold on now.
Yeah.
Because when Oprah turned around, geographical information said they turned around at the outskirt of the gate of the city.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which means she made a choice.
A choice.
And we don't like to be honest and own up to the choices we made.
Absolutely.
You chose Moab.
Absolutely.
So therefore you just missed your date with destiny that could have been favored by the redemption package and payment of Boaz.
Wow.
Because it ain't like Boaz just blessed Ruth.
Yeah.
He blessed Naomi up in there living large too.
You know what?
Naomi telling all the mothers in town, you can stop by our house.
You know, I just thought about, we've been saying this word redeem, but as we're getting ready to close, redeem means to compensate.
Right.
Whenever you're compensated for something, that means I'm going to pay you in full for
For
what
all.
you have done, for what you have gone through. Can I just prophetically declare that God is getting ready to compensate you for every tear that you cried, for every friend that walked away, for your wandering years when you didn't know which way to go, for all the wrong choices you made, for all the wrong decisions you made. God is redeeming the time for you, and he's going to compensate you, watch this, for your faithfulness to endure, for your decision to keep fighting the good fight of faith, for times when you didn't want to get out of bed but you got out of bed, for the times you looked around and didn't have a moment or a reason to say, I don't have nothing to thank you for, but I found a thanks in my shundo. God is saying tonight, I am going to compensate you. So can you just declare out of your mouth, wherever you are, wherever you're watching, listening, this is my hour of compensation. God, thank you for redeeming and paying me for what I endured.
And many people's compensation will come in this manner.
Yeah.
They're going to get double for their trouble. They're going to get double for their trouble.
Yes.
He's not just going to pay you what you think you're worth.
Yeah.
He's going to pay you for your weight.
Yeah.
He's going to pay you for your warfare. He's going to pay you for your hurt. He's going to pay you for unnecessary drama.
Yeah.
And if you've been a person like me that have elected to take the high road and stay silent in submitted situations, he's going to pay you because you was faithful. He's going to pay you because you decided to be a class act when you could have been another act. He's going to pay you because you stood still when you could have ran, because you was quiet when you could have spoke, because you kept your hand down when you could have brought your hand up. He's going to pay you for looking weak when you knew you were strong. He's going to pay you for refusing to come down off your level to handle situations that were beneath you. He's going to pay you because your light never went out. He's not just going to pay you for your energy, your synergy, and your efforts. He's going to pay you for every season that permeated and proliferated while you was trying to hold on. He's going to pay you for times you look like the villain when he and only he knew you was the victim. God's going to pay you. And he's going to pay you in public for what you endured in private. It ain't over yet. He's going to pay you for this. But listen, I want to finish this because I saw something. It says, moreover, Ruth the Moabite, this is Boaz. He said, and I have purchased to be my wife. All right? He purchases Ruth at the gate, in front of the elders, in front of the town. Because real love is never meant to be a secret. He purchased her in front of everybody. You see what I'm saying?
People that knew her history.
And he purchased her.
People that knew her past.
And he purchased her.
People that saw her lost.
And he
had
purchased
to
her.
witness her grieving season.
And he purchased her.
And he purchased her.
And all her mistakes.
Yeah, he purchased her.
Heartbroken.
Purchased her.
Didn't even, watch this, she was not a fashion statement.
But he purchased her.
Her hair wasn't done.
He purchased her.
But guess how I know? Because she had to walk 100 miles from Moab just to get back to Bethlehem, Judah.
Wow.
So she ain't looking like the diamond she is.
Yeah.
She ain't looking like the angel she was.
Yeah.
But still he purchased her. You see what I'm saying? Because he not only did he look at her, but he did what God has done for us. He looked Being young.
Our faults.
The faults.
Yes.
And if you, listen, if you got people in your life that can look at you, but can't afford you the mercy, the grace to look beyond, then you got the wrong people.
Yeah.
You got the wrong people with their eyes on you.
Yeah.
You got the wrong people with their eyes on you. If they can't look beyond your faults, then they shouldn't be able to look at your favor.
Yeah.
Don't bless them.
Yeah.
No, don't let them be the blessing and the beneficiary of your blessing, and they can't handle the weight of what it takes you to be you and all that you have endured to become you. Yeah. Right? So he does this in front of everybody. Now watch this, because I'm a nerd, so I got to give y'all this. He says, and to raise up the name of the dead, of the inheritance, that the name be not cut off from amongst the brethren and from the gate of the place, and ye are my witness this day. He says, notice to be true, I'm purchased her as my wife, but it is my vision to impregnate her that we might have a son. And I want to say it in front of everybody. When we have this son, it will be my son, but it will carry his name.
Wow.
So that the name of Elimelech and Mahlon would not be cut off in the land.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
Amazing. That's just like God.
It's like God.
Just like God.
Guess what? Now this is what people don't realize. So baby, here it is. I'm going to say it. You can just, when he says that, you know what he says? He says, this purchase is going to allow me to do something for you, Naomi. Do something for you, Ruth, that no other purchase could do. It's going to allow me to resurrect some things that was dead. Because at this moment, Elimelech's name is dead. Mahlon's name is dead. Chilion's name is dead. But when Boaz paid the price, their name got up.
Yes.
Their name got up. Naomi went to running. Because Elimelech's name lives. Ruth started crying because Mahlon's name lives. And when you are part of divine connection, some stuff you buried, God will resurrect. And some stuff people said was dead will come to life again. He had the power to resurrect, and he said it will live on the face of the earth from this day forward.
Yeah, and what I also hear, even in that, the Lord is simply saying tonight, because I'm going to bless you, all those that have stayed connected to you.
Right.
It's going to be blessed.
Right.
There are some people that stayed with you in your low season.
Stayed the course.
They watch this. They gave you sugar for your Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
They helped put gas in your car. Watch
Right.
this. They were your place of secrecy without judgment. God said tonight, not only am I going to bless you for your faithfulness, I'm going to bless those that's connected to you.
That's staying faithful to you. Yeah, they picked up the tab when you couldn't pick it up.
Yes.
Come on now. They paid the bill when you didn't have bill money.
Yes.
They gave you a pair of shoes when you didn't have the right pair of shoes. And sometimes that's why it's so important you got to be careful how you treat people.
Yes.
Because you don't ever know who's going to be a part of your destiny package.
Yeah.
Ruth is getting all these benefits because she was so good to Naomi. Naomi is getting the benefit because she decided to enter into covenant with a man of faith.
Yeah.
It all comes down to choices and decisions.
Yeah.
You know something?
And look this, and I know we have to go, but you talked about the witnesses. And this is what I want to say tonight.
Okay, I'll tell you what. Let me read this so you get the fullness of it.
Okay.
It says, and all the people that were in the gate and the elders. I told you it was two different groups there. We are witnesses. Okay? And the Lord make the woman that is coming to the house like Rachel and Leah, which two did build the house of Israel, and do thou worthily in Ephrathah, and be famous in Bethlehem. And let thy house be like the house of Pharez and Tamar, that bear unto them Judah of the city of the Lord, shall give thee of this young woman. I'm going to pause it for a minute before we close out. Go ahead.
You said that the witnesses. He said, I'm going to say this in front of the witnesses. Well, watch this. Naomi never parted her lips to say anything.
Ruth didn't either.
Ruth never parted her mouth to say anything. Can I just declare over you, your witnesses are getting ready to testify for you.
On your
You're
behalf.
getting ready to go into a season. You're at the edge of a new season in your life, and you're not going to have to say anything. The glory and the favor that's getting ready to hit your life, the testimony is going to be seen because you're going to show up. But the witnesses are getting ready to testify for you. Who are the witnesses? Those that saw you win, knew you win, and knew the hows and the whats. They are getting ready to testify on your behalf.
Think about it. There's two major business transactions that have taken place at the gate. And whenever minister of y'all dealing with this text, please make sure dualistically that you highlight both of them.
Yeah.
There is the transferring and purchasing of property. Right?
Yeah.
But then there's a wedding. There's a transferring and purchasing of property. Three things. Then there's the clearing of any and all debt.
Yes.
Right? But then there's a wedding. There's a wedding going on. Y'all see this?
Yeah.
He just married Ruth in front of everybody.
Yeah.
Right? Why do you have to bring this up, Bishop? Because in modern day weddings, there is a part of the vow that goes like this. If there's any person here that can show just cause of why these two people that have come before us today should not be joined together in holy matrimony, let you speak now or hereinafter hold your peace. In the modern day wedding, the approval of the wedding, the affirmation of the wedding, and the confirmation of the wedding is predicated upon the silence from the crowd. A bride and a groom stand and they say, if there's any person that can show just cause of why they should not go into the union, speak now. And everybody, when they get to that part, everybody turns and looks. And some grooms take a deep breath, and some brides peep over their shoulder because they're hoping nobody say nothing. In biblical times, at the gate, when Boaz married Ruth, the one thing he could not have was silence. That's why the Bible said, and the witnesses said. In other words, the witnesses became the affirmation, the confirmation, and the amen. They said, we with this.
Yeah.
We see this. God is in this. God's going to do this. And then the witnesses start prophesying. They said, we're speaking over you that the woman you have just married would do for you the same thing that was done in the house with Rachel and Leah. Well, what do they mean by that, Rachel and Leah? Because these two women together, remember, was in covenant marriage to the same man. Because y'all remember, he married Leah and then when he wanted Rachel. All right, good. Y'all know the story. I ain't got time to get with it. Together they had about, 12, 13 kids. And it built what is called the house of Israel. He goes on to make another reference about Tamar. In other words, there was 5 major houses in the lineage of Judah that became popular, powerful, and prominent. He just listed 2 of them. The witnesses are saying to them that we're prophetically speaking over your life that this union is going to produce greatness, that's going to then produce fame that will come out, fame that will be heralded out of the grounds of Jerusalem, which unbeknownst to them is going to rise up out of Bethlehem. He said this union is going to produce greatness. And in about 2 minutes, as we close, I'm going to tell them what greatness it produces. All right? So let's go to the next verse as we close. So Boaz took Ruth, she was his wife, went into her, and the Lord gave it to her conception. All right? I'm going to pause right there. I want to say something real quick. Lean in. I know we got to go. Verse number 13. People read this so fast that they miss it. Boaz took Ruth, right? So they just got married. They just finished the vow, baby. Transaction's over. She was and she was his wife, okay? And when he went into her, okay, the Lord gave her conception. All right. Why did I want to stop right there? Here it is. Boaz just married Ruth. Lean in. Finna get you out of here. Hey, this finna be a night moment. Finna be a night moment, baby. Hey, all y'all around the world, y'all know what's silly. This finna be a night point. You ready? Boaz is with Ruth.
Yes.
They go in to, I'm trying to think of a nice, eloquent way Oh, okay.
Relations.
Well, yeah, because grandma would say they went in to have a relation.
Yeah.
All right. From a legal perspective, they went in to consummate the wedding.
Yes.
So they go in, they have a relation. Consummation is going on.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And they come out. But here's what people miss. You ready? The Bible says, I'm not making it up, and the Lord gave her conception. Why is this so awesome, babe? Because this isn't leaning. This isn't Ruth's first consummation.
Bishop.
This isn't her first time having relations. This ain't her first time being with a man or knowing a man. But it's her first time being pregnant. Who she was with before, God shut her womb up. And nobody talks about it. She was married to Malon for almost, lean in, night, 10 years. 10 years of relations produced nothing. Consummated nothing. Huffing and puffing and nothing. Whining and dining, laying and playing and nothing. And time she get with who God wanted her to be with. Something.
Producing.
I gotta run up out of here. Time she get what God wanted her to be. She on a 9-month cycle. Time she get what God wanted her to be. Her ankles are swelling. She's having Braxton cramps. She's having heartburn. I can let you run it. Time she get what God wanted her to be. Yes. She go from pointless to pregnancy.
Come on here.
She go from nothing to carrying. Yes. She go from breaking water, sweating, to having her water break. Yes. Come on, somebody. Because God conceived it. God touched it. God opened the womb. And when you get what God would have you to be, He will open doors that's been shut, raise windows that's been down. He will reach in darkness and pull out light because the hand of God is on the situation. A lot of people are tired because they are working out of the will of God. And when you work in the will of God, it will produce. Harvest will come. Greatness will happen. Miracles will permeate. Signs will proliferate. But God's hand got to be on it because there's some things you can't do by yourself. If God said it, you can't open it. And if God opened it, the devil can't shut it. On the first night of consummation, God blesses the womb. Let me get out of here. But I'm going to say this. He blessed the womb, baby. He blessed the womb. He blessed the womb. She's pregnant. 9 months later, she does what? Have a son. What do they name the son? Obed. Now, guess what? She didn't even name the son. Night, leaning. She ain't named the son. The Bible said that the women in the town named the son. They said the women named the son Obed. The word Obed means, I'll be your servant. Lean in. They named the son servant, took the son in their arm from Ruth. Guess what they gave the baby to? Most of the time, the baby is held all night by the mother because the baby got to be nursed. Do you not know that biblical commentary tells us, God to mind, if you walk through the corridors of biblical historicity, it would tell you that Obed is one of the few. Obed was nursed by 2 women. He was nursed by Ruth and Naomi. So when they gave Obed to Naomi, the women turned to Naomi and said, Naomi, we should call him Obed. Why? Because Obed, who's going to be your kinsman, will be your servant all the days of your life. God has given you this grandchild with your husband's name on it to restore your joy the rest of the days of your life. Wow. But remember what they said to Boaz about Ruth when he married. Night. They said, we hope God used her to do your house. How God used Rachel and Leah to produce. They gave a word in most scripture that most people don't know, to produce fame. We want this union to produce something so great that people talk about it for a while. Well, guess what? They had a son named Obed. Obed grew up one day, met this girl, fell in love, had relations, consummation, and he had a son. Guess what they named his son?
What they name?
Jesse. I ain't lying. Jesse grew up, met a girl, got with her, had relations, honeymoon night, had consummation, and then he had a son. Guess what Jesse named his son?
What they name?
David.
David.
Let me stop right here. What David? David that skipped rocks on Jesse's pond. David who went down talking about the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Why is this important? Because one day David met a girl, had relations, honeymoon night, consummation. Guess what they named his son? Solomon. Man, I got to go, y'all. I could do this all night. I ain't new to this. I'm true to this. Guess what? All of them have in common. Solomon, David, Jesse, Obed, Boaz, Samuel, Rahab, Ruth. You know what they all got in common? They all end up in Jesus' family tree. So the prophecy at the gate came true. Fame. Out of this one union came fame, favor, the faithfulness of God, and the fulfillment of all prophecy came through this union. Naomi raised him, held him as her son. Ruth went on with Boaz, and it changed the course of time and kept the footprint of the kingdom marching toward the right direction. And we finally get out of the Old Testament, go into the New Testament, and we meet our Boaz, who they call Jesus, who became our what? Kinsman, redeemer.
Yes.
And when he bought us, he bought us knowing our past, our pain, our hurt, our failures, our faults, our misunderstandings. He bought it all. Because that's what a real redeemer does.
Absolutely.
And when you go back to chapter 1, when they are broken in a famine and their faith failed, and then 3 tombstones in Moab and men die, and then they walk 100 miles to get home as widows, and then Naomi says, call me no longer Naomi, call me Mara, I'm bitter. But the topic was, it's all gonna make sense after a while. And now that the story ends, it ends with it all making sense. Mwah! Night, night. It's on you.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight. This has been Tag Team Tuesday with yours truly, Bishop Dreyfus Smith and Lady Melissa Smith. Listen, we want to speak a word of prayer over you tonight. We're praying that as you enter into your season of redemption, that you will recognize everything that God is placing in front of you, that you be sensitive to the times and the terms, that God will synchronize you and align you for the journey, that he will strengthen you as you go through this thing called life, so that you won't be derailed to detour, so that you can get to destiny. It is our prayer tonight that as you have received this word, that you would adhere this word, and we pray that it falls on a great heart, open ears, that you will have wisdom to receive and do. Watch this, not just be a hearer of the word, but a doer of the word. Listen, the giving is on the screen. If this word has been a blessing to you, please go to Give Left Fly. Please go to Cash App. You're so kind. Please sow a seed to Bishop Smith or myself, only if this word has been a blessing to you. And also share the seed of sharing. Sow a seed of sharing. Sow this word. Share it to someone. Put it in someone's DM or inbox, because we know this word is going to be a blessing to you. And listen, make sure you subscribe and join us on Sunday mornings. Same time, same place. Sunday mornings at 9 o'clock on live stream or in person. We love to have you there. Bishop?
Hey, be good to God.
And God will
Always.
be good,
Be good to you.
to you.
Yeah, can I agree with you?
Amen.
Can I agree? Oh, I felt it in my shoulder. No.
We love you.
I felt, we need to go off because I'm about to shout. I'm about to listen. I'm about to go in.
This is the season of redemption.
I'm still caught up. Y'all keep
Yeah,
going.
this
I'm
is the
having
season
trouble
of
by myself.
redemption. So as we leave and we go off tonight, I just want you to declare this throughout your week.
And decree it.
Thank you for redeeming
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah.
In Jesus' name, we pray. Decree and declare. It is so. Amen.
Amen. God bless you. Next time. Peace.